All right, in this week's video, we're going to go over and we're actually going to look at some client data. Now, we've taken a lot of things out of here for privacy reasons, but we are going to show you some of the things that we are looking at. So, this is week by week. You obviously don't see the weeks here, but one of the things that we're looking here is look at this jump right here, this page to opt in rate. This is that opt in rate that almost doubled, which is really good. But when you come over here in this cost per call, look, the cost per call almost doubled. Why is that, right? So that's kind of what we get. And it's really important. A lot of people will just look at a single metric. One of the things that you have to be really careful with, really any marketing agency, is, data, as trustful and reliant as it is, can also be your worst temptress. I can tell you how many new CRO experts come in and they just start testing metrics and they eventually Frankenstein. They're winning tests, but they're not looking at the whole picture. So it's very important when you start building these things and you're micro testing that in order to get results like this, that you're also making sure you're looking at the whole picture. That's kind of what we're doing here is one person can say, hey, this is great news, but we can also look at this. And if we actually look 3 weeks back, we can see a gradual um, decrease in our, now this looks like average, there are going to be anomalies where, some weeks do better. We also have to remember ads are affecting this. There's so many other factors, but this tells us right here is, okay, one question is, hey, there's more opt-ins, but are those opt-ins qualified to go to the book a call? They might be interested in getting the freebie, but they're not ready there. So how maybe we change something in our messaging. So that's one data point that we're going to look at. Just by looking at this data, there's usually 5 or 10 things that we want to look at. But one of the biggest things that's really obvious to me in this data is this dip here and where it's gone for 2 weeks in a row, that we should probably look at doing some type of test to see if we can improve this page view to call rate. And that should hopefully reduce this cost here. But what's interesting here, and this is why it's important to look at the data here, is this page, this opt-in rate doubled. But look, the cost also doubled. Now we're approaching Black Friday here, and generally your cost per impressions are going to go up. This isn't something that's abnormal. Another thing we might be looking at is the click-through rate. The click-through rate is the ad performance. Is it going down, right? Your landing page and your full funnel, your email nurturing needs to be tied into what the top of funnel is doing. You can't have one hand be doing something and the other not know about it, because it can cause differences, especially if you're doing customer loyalty metrics, or retention is a really big one. So this also tells us, hey, we need to look at the CPM. CPMs are going to be rising for the next week or two. But what we can see here is, for the sake of this video, we're going to go through and we're just going to focus on this data point, because this should really help here. And hopefully this stays, and we'll go look at all those later. So I've actually already done all the pre-work to make the video nice and concise. But this is where we were converting at before. And you can see we've ran tests before, and this is definitely the winner, and it's still winning. But, it's had a lot of traffic to it. So over time traffic, and the other one that you're seeing is segmented. So week by week. So there's probably something with the ads, because we have been working on getting the ads. So there might be a mismatch in the ad level, and kind of looking at that. That's why I think I'm seeing a lot more opt-ins and not as many people take into the offer. So we're going to have to adjust even the landing page for that opt-in page instead of just the upsell. But we're going to focus on the upsell one. And one of the biggest things I noticed here when I looked at some of the scroll data is, there isn't a lot of information in that first pane. It's not very authoritative. It's not very personable. So we're going to try taking something that's more of a general image, an image that was working great, because we're still getting almost a 9-10% with over 1,000 visitors, is we need to look and see if possibly making it more authoritative and personable will lead people to go to a call. A lot of people we're programmed to talk to people's faces. That's why it's so important to have your face here. It's a lot harder to say no to a face than it is just to some screen name, and we can see that in a lot of like your cyberbullying studies, etc. So what we're going to do here is this test is going to be, we're actually going to swap the image out for a different image, a smaller image of the owner, to build authority with some type of date stamp. And that's also going to increase what we can put above the fold, and see if we can get more of those really high value points and the copy points that we've tested higher on the page, so people are more inclined to scroll down. Because the top of the page on this one is, hey, thank you for signing up for the newsletter. Your resource will be soon. And that takes up a lot of the space. So there's not a lot of new information that can hook them if the image is so big, even though the image was something that was trying to get them to scroll down. So what we'll do is we'll try and test to see if we can actually beat this one. So that's kind of what we're looking at is it's just really important to make sure that when you're making these changes, you don't make your own Frankenstein monster, that you're looking at the full funnel when you're testing.